Good morning, friends. Welcome back. I am Sunil Desai, and you are at Galaxy Tutorials. Okay. Now, today we are going to study chapter number 2 of Political Science, that is Federalism. Okay. Please, just like I say you always, please open your textbook, page number 14 of your textbook. Also, have your notebook with you and keep a pen and pencil handy. Okay, as usual. So, now let us study about Federalism, Chapter 2, 10, CBS. Okay, so in the first chapter, what we saw was that Belgium had a central government as well as a state government in different states. See, the states were there before also, and since after 1993, Belgium changed its constitutions a number of times. In 1993, what they did was that they reduced the power of the central government and gave these powers to the state government. Before that, before 1993, state governments did exist in Belgium, but they were subordinate to the central government. That means the central government could anytime, what they used to do, they could withdraw the powers of the state government. But after 1993, it was not possible. Its constitution changed. They were given more powers and they were made independent of the central government. So Belgium shifted from a unitary type of government ruled by the center. Unitary type of government is a government ruled by the center to a federal type of government where the state governments also are independent of the central government. They can take certain decisions on their own. This was not the case with Sri Lanka. Okay. So what is federalism? Federalism is a system of government in which the power is divided between a central authority and the state authority. Okay. So usually federation has two levels of government. One is the government of the entire country, and then you have the government of each provinces or each state. Okay. So the government of the entire country is usually responsible for a few common subjects of national interest. Okay, common national interest subjects. Who is going to look after? The central government. Okay, and the subject which related to the day-to-day administering of the province will be looked after by the state government. Okay, so both these levels of government, they enjoy their power independent of each other. They are not dependent, the state governments are not dependent on the central government. They can take decisions in certain fields of day-to-day administration on their own. Okay, the central government can't force its view on them. So, under the unitary, whereas in the unitary system, that is, which has been controlled by the central government, there is either one level of government which looks after the total country, or there are governments at the state level, but they are subordinate to the central government. Means they are dependent on the central government. Okay, the central government can pass on orders to this government, to the provincial or local government. This happens in the unitary type of government. But in federal government, in the federal type of system, the central government cannot order the state government. Remember that in a federal system, the central government cannot order the state government to do something. State government has powers of its own for which it is not answerable to the central government. Remember this. Okay, what is the difference between a unitary government and a federal system? In the unitary system, the central government can enforce its orders to the state government. The state government are subordinate government. Whereas in the federal system, the central government can't force its decision on all fields to the state government. The state government can take its own decisions. Okay, it is independent to take its own decisions. Now let us look at some of the key features of federalism. First key feature is that there are two or more levels of government. Okay, like the central government, the state government, the local self-government. Okay, so there are at least two or more than two levels of government. Second, different tiers of government, when different levels of government govern the same citizens. The central government looks after the same citizens, the state government looks after the same citizens. Now see, today we are staying in Mumbai. Mumbai is in Maharashtra. Okay, so we are governed by two governments. One is a state government and one is a central government. Okay, but each level of government has its own jurisdiction in specific matters of legislation, taxation and administration. Though we are ruled by two governments, they have a certain jurisdiction. The central government can, regard to legislation or taxation, central government can put tax on a few articles, not on all the articles. And state government can have taxation on a few articles. Okay. The administration also will be done by the state government and the central government. But there are certain jurisdictions for the central government, certain jurisdictions for the state government. Okay. Third, the jurisdictions of the respective levels of government are specified in the constitution. Now, what is the jurisdiction of the center and what is the jurisdiction of the state level government? They should not overlap each other. So, in our constitution, it has been specifically mentioned which areas of administration the state government will look and which areas of administration the central government will look. Okay. So, the existence and authority of each tier of government is guaranteed constitutionally. It is not that they overlap each other, then there will be a conflict between the state government and the central government. So it has been specifically mentioned in the constitution, okay, what are the jurisdictions of each government. Fourth, the fundamental provisions of the constitution cannot be unilaterally changed by the one level of government. When the central government on its own cannot change the provisions of the constitution. Remember, this is very important. One fine day, the central government can get up and say, no, we don't want to give these rights to the state government, so we'll change the rules and laws. No, this can't be done. Okay? The constitution doesn't allow this. Okay? So, for such changes, you need the consent of both the levels of government. If the state level government is ready for that changes, then only the central government can make those changes. Okay. The fifth feature of federalism is that courts have the power to interpret the constitution and the powers of different levels of government. Now, who has the right to interpret? It is the court, the judiciary. It has the right to interpret the constitution. Means what the constitution wants to say by that law. Who is going to interpret it in the right way? That is the judiciary. Okay. What are the powers of the state? Who is going to interpret? It is going to be the judiciary, the court. The highest court, that is the Supreme Court, acts as an umpire if a dispute arises between different levels of government in respect to exercising their power. Suppose there is a conflict between the state government and the central government regarding exercise of their power, they can go to the Supreme Court. Okay, and Supreme Court will give a decision whether power of the state is being exercised by the power of the center, or power of the center is being exercised by the state government. So, who is the umpire here? The judiciary, the Supreme Court. Okay. 6. The sources of revenue for each level of government are clearly specified to ensure its financial autonomy. See, to run a government, it needs money, and this money comes from the revenue. So, which taxes should be collected by the state, and which taxes to be collected by the central government? That has been specifically mentioned, okay, so that neither the state nor the central government depend upon each other for the revenue part, for the money to run the government, okay, so that will lead to their full final autonomy. 7. The seventh feature of federalism is that the federal system thus has dual objectives. There are two objectives the federal system has, okay, safeguard and promote the unity of the country. So because there is a central government, what is happening is that we are safeguarding the unity of the country and promoting the unity of the country, while at the same time we are accommodating regional diversity. Okay, the regional diversity is also been accommodated by having state government. Okay, at the same time we are not we are promoting the unity of country by having a central government. So, governments at different levels should agree to some rules of power sharing. Both the central government and the state government, they should agree to certain rules of power sharing. They should also trust that each would abide by its part of agreement. There should be a trust between the two governments, the central government and the state government. That if there is a mistrust between the state government and the central government, then both the government don't work. It won't work. There will be political instability. Okay, so in an ideal federal system, both expect, which are the both expect? Mutual trust and agreement to live together. Okay, this should exist. Then only the federal system will run properly. So which are the two aspects? Mutual trust among each other, and agreement to live together, that we are going to live together. Okay, so the trust which a husband and wife has to run a house, similar trust needs to be there between the central government and the state government to coexist. Otherwise, this federal system won't work. The exact balance of power between the central and the state government varies from one federation to another. This balance depends mainly on the historical context in which the federation was formed. There are two kinds of routes through which federations have been formed. The first route involves independent states coming together on their own to form a bigger unit, so that by pulling sovereignty and retaining identity, they can increase their security. See, now how is this federal system formed? There are two ways. Sometimes what happens, some independent states, some independent provinces, they come together. Why? For the security. If they come together and form one country, okay, or federal system, then what will happen is that all these states or these provinces will be more secure, because there's someone to look after the security of all these small provinces. Okay, so that type of federation is called coming together federations. And the best example of coming together federation is the United States of America, because they were all independent states. They came together to form the United States of America. So United States of America and Switzerland and Australia are the type of coming together federations. Okay. The second route is where a large country decides to divide its power between the constituent states and the national government. So, India, Spain, and Belgium are examples of this kind of holding together federation. Means India was a country, and then we divide this whole country into states based on the languages, on the linguistic basis. We divide after independence, we divided whole of India into states so that each people of a particular language will remain in a particular state. So they will come under one state. So what will happen? It will be easy for administration. So India, Spain and Belgium are examples of holding together federations. Okay. So in this type, in holding together, but there is a difference in holding together, coming together. In coming together federations, all states have equal power, but in holding together federations, certain states have more power compared to others. There is unequal power. Okay, some states are given special powers. Now, let us see what makes India a federal country. See, let us begin with the Constitution. India had emerged as an independent nation after a painful and bloody partition. You all know when India got independent, it was partitioned into Pakistan and India. Further, Pakistan was divided into Bangladesh and Pakistan. Okay? So soon after independence, several princely states became a part of the country. There were not many princely states in India when the Britishers were ruling. So after independence, many princely states, they joined the Indian country. The Constitution declared India as a union of states. Although it did not use the word federation, the Indian Union is based on the principles of federalism. See, let us go back to the 7 features of federalism which we just studied. We can see that all these features apply to the provisions of the Indian Constitution. The Constitution originally provided for a two-tier system of government. The Union government or the central government, okay, and which represents the whole of India, the Union of India, and the state government looking after each different state. Later, we had a third level, the third tier, okay, in the form of panchayats and the municipalities. So, as in any federation, these different tiers enjoy separate jurisdiction. The Constitution clearly provided a threefold distribution of legislative power between the Union government and the state government. Thus, it contains 3 lists: the Union list, the state list, and the concurrent list. Okay, the list of jurisdiction of power. There are 3 lists. One is the Union list, the second is the state list, and the third is the concurrent list. Now let us see in detail about the 3 lists. First, let us come to the Union list. The Union list includes subjects of national importance such as defense of the country, foreign affairs, banking, communications and currency. Now if you see these 5 subjects like defense, foreign affairs, banking, communications and currency are a countrywide subject, because a state can't have a defense portfolio, a defense department, because India as a whole has to look after defending the country as a whole. So defense comes in the union list. Similarly, the foreign affairs, because India has to, as a country, has to deal with other countries. So foreign affairs also comes in the union list. Banking again has to be equal. The rules and regulations in the banking system should be equal in all the states in India. That's why banking also goes in the union list. Communication, again we have to communicate with all of the people in the whole of the country. So it becomes a what comes in the union list. And the currency, you can't have different currencies in different states. Maharashtra can't have a different currency other than Gujarat or Madhya Pradesh or Karnataka. Okay, so the currency has to remain same throughout the country. If you have different currency, there will be a lot of problems in the economy. So these subjects are there in the union list. Now, in the state list contains subjects of local importance, such as police, okay, to look after the internal security of that law and order of that particular state. So you have police department which looks after the internal law and order of that particular state. Then the trade, commerce, agriculture, irrigation, these are all local issues. Okay? So the state governments alone can make laws relating to the subjects mentioned in the state list. Whereas then comes the another list which is also very important, that is the concurrent list. This list includes subjects of common interest of both the union as well as the state government, such as education. Education, the state government is also interested in it as well as the central government. Okay, so education, forest, trade unions, marriage, adoption, succession, all this succession means who is going to be the heir after someone dies, regarding the property, okay, succession of property. Then both the union as well as the state government can make laws on the subjects mentioned in this list. The concurrent list, both the state government as well as central government has the interest. So both of them can make laws in this regard. But one more thing you have to remember, if the laws or the decisions taken, the laws made by the state government are in contrast to the or are conflicting to the laws made by the union government, then the law made by the union government will prevail. If there is a conflicting law, the state government has taken a law which is conflicting with the law taken by the central government, then which law will prevail? The law made by the union government will prevail. Remember this in mind. Okay. So according to our constitution, the union government has the power to legislate on there are many other subjects. For example, now computers. Okay. Computer or the new technology, this was not there at the time of constitution. So all other subjects which don't lie in the state list or the union list or the concurrent list, all these subjects will be these are called residuary subjects. This will be looked after by the central government. So, thus, all states in the Indian Union Do they have equal powers? No. Why? Because these are holding together the state. Means the union government is holding all the states together. So it has to give certain special privileges to certain states. For example, Jammu and Kashmir was till last year having its own constitution, but now it has changed. Certain states in northeast have their own set of powers. They have been given special provisions. They have certain special powers. Okay, because there the situation is different from the situation in other states. Being at the border of other countries, their situation is different. So they have been given certain autonomy. Okay. There are some units of the Indian Union which enjoy very little power. These are areas which are too small to become an independent state, but which could not be merged with any existing state. There were certain geographical areas. Maybe because of their linguistic differences, this could not be merged into any state. Okay, so those areas, those small geographical areas, okay, you can't call them as states. Okay, but these areas like Chandigarh or Lakshadweep or the capital city of Delhi are called union territories. These territories do not have the powers of a state. The central government has special powers in running these areas. Who runs these areas? The central government. Through the governors of those union territories runs this government. So this sharing of power between the union government and the state is basic to the structure of the constitution. And it is not easy to make changes to this power sharing arrangement. The constitution has made certain arrangements and it is very difficult to change this arrangement. The parliament on its own cannot change this arrangement. Any change to it has to be first passed by both the houses of the parliament with at least 2/3 of majority. Only if there is a 2/3 majority, then only a change in the constitution can occur, and that too in both the houses, that is both in the Lok Sabha as well as the Rajya Sabha. Then it has to be ratified by the legislatures of at least half of the total states, means at least out of the 29, okay, at least 50 states, half of the legislatures of 15 states should agree upon to those changes. Okay. The judiciary plays an important role in overseeing the implementation of constitutional provisions and procedures. So here comes the roles of the judiciary. The judiciary plays an important role whether the constitution has been followed properly or not. In case of any dispute about the division of powers, the High Court and the Supreme Court makes a decision. The union and the state government have the power to raise resources by levying taxes in order to carry on the government and the responsibilities assigned to each of them. Okay, so this is about a brief about federalism. This is what we know about federalism. In the next part, we are going to study how federalism is actually practiced, okay, while running a government, while running this country. Okay, and that's it. And this is all for today. Go through the, I am again telling you, go through the chapter. You have plenty of time. Now is the time to go carefully, read thoroughly each and every chapter. Okay, because I have taught you now, if you go through the chapter in within 24 hours, you will remember what I was teaching you. Otherwise, what will happen? You will forget things after 24 hours, and then if you after a week or so, or after a month when you start reading, you will have a lot of difficulties. So please start reading, studying right now. Okay? Thank you.